guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bianca, and if you're new, welcome. If you are a regular, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing my top 10 books of 2022, along with some like honorable mentions of books that I love, but they didn't quite make my top 10. So I'm gonna try and do this in order from when I read them. Some of them I don't quite remember. And I guess I could have looked in my journal, but I didn't. So we'll work with what we've got. Because like I said, some of these I read in January. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's get into it. So the first book I read in 2022 was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This gorgeous book is the 25th anniversary edition. I remember, what do I remember? Walking through Target and just wanting a book that would make me think and would make me reflect, and this was the perfect book. Like I said, I read it in January, but I remember there were a lot of points where I would read something and I would have to pause and just think about what I just read. I did highlight a lot of it. Unfortunately, I did not tab any of it. I might have to go back and tab it, but I started reading this in the checkout line, and even just the forward at the start of the book, I had already highlighted a whole bunch, so I knew it was exactly what I needed. This is a fiction. It's about a man who sets out to find his treasure. So he's setting out on a journey to find his treasure. He is constantly faced with obstacles and things that can kind of deter him from achieving what he wants to achieve, but something always brings him back to that, his original goal. And I feel like this book kind of just tells you to keep going, and no matter what happens, no matter what kind of gets in your way, you can always achieve what you want to achieve. So I found this very inspirational. Like I said, it really caused me to reflect, and it was the first book I read in January. It was the first book I read in the year, and I think it was the perfect book to pick up first. The next book I think I picked up, these next two might be interchangeable, but In Every Generation by Kendara Blake. I had been looking forward to this book for at least a year or two, and when I finally got my hands on it, I had to pick it up. I loved it. It was very nostalgic for me. Let's get into why. This is kind of based off Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a huge part of my childhood and my teenage years, and it was just great to come back to this world and revisit it. So this follows Frankie, Willow's daughter, and she's a witch, but then at the Slayer convention, there's an explosion, and all of a sudden, Frankie is called as a Slayer, and she has to kind of contend with these two opposing sides of herself as they have to figure out how to meld together, and she needs to figure out how to work with what she's being given. She's also faced with the mystery of what attacked the Slayer convention, and are all of these Slayers, including her Aunt Buffy and Faith, are they all really dead? So it's kind of like a mystery, but you also get like new Sunnydale, you get the new Scooby Gang, you also get old favorites like Willow and Oz and Spike, and I really want to reread this now. So the next book in this series is coming out this year, and I am so excited, but this just brought on all the nostalgic feels. I mean, you get to deal with Spike's banter and his really bad timing with jokes, and see Willow come into her own, because she's not the shy Willow that she was at the beginning of the series, and she's now a mother. And then you get Oz, who has taken in his nephew and is raising him, and it's amazing. It's awesome. You also get to meet one of the original Potential's sister, which we never hear about, so it's really interesting, and like I said, nostalgic, and I loved it. The next book I read was Daughter and the Moon Goddess. This is the Fairy Loot edition, which I did not read. I read the normal edition that I bought myself, but it was amazing. I love this. This follows it's kind of like a retelling of a legend based off of the myth of Chang'e, the Moon Goddess, and this follows her daughter, Xian, I believe. Yes, Xian. And, you know, she's an unknown person. When Chang'e is sent to the moon for taking the immortality potion, nobody knew she was pregnant. And so Xian has been hidden on the moon with her mother for her whole life until she accidentally does some magic. And then the Celestial Kingdom realizes, you know, there's something going on up here. So Xian is sent from the moon for her protection, and she sets out on a quest to free her mother. So this includes doing a whole bunch of trials as a means to get a favor from the king. So I love this. There are some slow points, like Xian gets distracted from her mission a little bit occasionally, but she always remembers what she's originally fighting for. And there is romance, kind of like a love triangle, and I don't mind it. I love this. So cannot wait to get the sequel to this. This is a duology, and Heart of the Sun Warrior is out, and I do want to read it. Then I read Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is a really cute, I don't know if I call it a romance. I think this is kind of marketed as a romance, but I kind of want to call it like a mystery. Or maybe it's marketed as a mystery and I want to call it a mystery romance, whatever. But this follows, what's her name? Madeline, or Medi, and she has three meddling aunts and her mother, who sets her up on a blind date. And then Medi accidentally kills her date. And you know, I loved how they came together. The aunts and her mother came together and supported Madeline, and they set out to kind of like, I guess, not hide what she did, but kind of like protect Madeline from the accidental death of her date. And the aunts and the mother run a wedding planning business, and Madeline does the photography for this business. So as they're planning a wedding, a very high profile wedding on this island, the body accidentally gets sent there, and they have to deal with, you know, pulling off this very high profile wedding while also hiding the fact that there's a dead body, while also dealing with Medi's ex-boyfriend, who is the one that got away. Very fun. And I loved the interactions between the family. Family is a big part of this book, and I loved how the aunts interacted with each other. They were always bickering. They were always taking swipes at each other, but you could tell that no matter how many times they argued or how much they argued, they really loved each other, and they loved Madeline, and it's just so much fun. I did audiobook this. I did both. I read it physically and I audiobooked it, but definitely loved it. And it also has a sequel that is out now for Aunties and a Wedding. So I have to read this, but I very much look forward to it. But I do highly recommend this. I think I gave this 5 stars. I think I gave all of these 5 stars. The next one is also a 5-star. This is Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen. This is like practical magic in a book, except not practical magic. But I love this book. I tabbed this so much. So much. There's so many tabs. And I just love this. So this follows, I believe her name is Clara. Or is it just Claire? It's just Claire. This follows Claire Waverly, who, you know, when growing up, she kind of traveled around a lot with her mother, and then her younger sister was born, and they settled back home with their grandmother. But as Claire grew, I don't think she ever actually felt settled, so she dealt a lot with that. And then her sister leaves and disappears kind of off the face of the earth. She doesn't hear from her. And then unfortunately her grandmother dies. But Claire has a special gift. She can take flowers and herbs and put them in food and kind of infuse them with feelings. So she can use like mystical plants to aid in keeping secrets, or make children thoughtful, or discourage the attentions of amorous neighbors. So I love the mystical aspect of this because it's not like in your face magic. The great aunt in this, I forget her name, she carries around a tote bag with a bunch of items in it, and she just knows that somebody needs this. She doesn't know why they need it, but she knows they need it. And her sister has a gift with hair. She can give a person the perfect hairstyle, and I love it. It's not, like I said, in your face magic. It's just comforting and warm, and there's a romance in here, and it's beautiful. And then there's some action in here, and it's so much fun. I loved this book. I definitely gave it 5 stars. And I highly recommend it. It's so comforting and cozy, and just, it warms your heart. And I loved it. This next one is one that it's part of a series that I am slowly making my way through, and I'm hoping to finish it this year. This is the second book in the All Souls trilogy. It is Shadow of Night. This is the sequel to A Discovery of Witches. This is the red paperback edition, obviously. And unfortunately, I left it in front of my window, and so it got a little sun damaged. But I do have all of these in hardcover, but I prefer reading the paperbacks. So I'm not going to tell you a whole bunch about this because it is a sequel and I don't want to spoil anything. But A Discovery of Witches follows Diana Bishop, who is a witch, and she somehow manages to call a magical Ashmole manuscript from the library that nobody has seen in centuries. And she's very like, I don't want to have anything to do with magic, so she just returns it. And now she has all of these different creatures coming at her so they can have the manuscript. She has witches after her, she has demons, she has vampires. And that is how she meets Matthew Claremont, who is a vampire and a scientist, and he wants the manuscript so he can kind of study the origin of his species. And they fall in love, but they are also faced with challenges because witches, demons, and vampires are not supposed to interact outside their species. So I do love this, and I love that Deborah Harkness, the author, is a historian, so there is a lot of like history in these books, and it's accurate and it's very well written. And I love the series. I love the TV series that is based off of this. So as I am reading the books, I then get to watch the series. So each season is a book. I have watched season 1, loved it. Now that I've finished this book, I can watch season 2. So I believe I gave this 4 stars, but still, I still loved it. It was a little slow, because there's a lot of information in this one, but I still loved it. I think I started it at the end of the year before last, and then I finished it like mid-year this year, but still highly recommend this series because I still love this. The next 2 books are by the same author. I first read this one this summer, and I fell in love with this author. This is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. I want to say I read this for one of the either Summerween or Springween, or one of the Ween. I might have, I don't remember, but I loved it. So this one is, like most of Simone St. James's books, or most of the current ones, follows kind of like 2 timelines. It takes place in 1950 and 2014. So 1950, a girl goes missing from, what's the name of the school? A girl goes missing at Idlewild Hall. And then 2014, we meet Fiona, who is a journalist and also has a history with the town that she lives in because her sister was unfortunately discovered murdered on the field of Idlewild Hall. When she discovers Idlewild Hall has been bought and is being restored, she decides she's going to dig into the history of this boarding school and maybe along the way discover what really happened to her sister. So I love this. There's some paranormal aspects to it. It is just very captivating and kind of spooky, but I thought it was really, really good. This got 4 stars from me, but it was a high 4 stars. The next one is another one by Simone St. James. This is The Book of Cold Cases. This is about a woman who is accused of murdering her father, I believe it is, but she is pardoned because there's not enough evidence to convict her. And then years later, Shea, who has a true crime blog, meets her and wants to interview her and tell her story. And, you know, she's like, sure, fine. I'm old, why not? Can't charge you twice. So she decides, you know what, I'm going to tell you, but you have to come to my house. So she goes, and, you know, weird paranormal things are happening at that house. And she tells the story and things finally come to light. So I loved this one too. This also got 4 stars. Again, high 4 stars, but Simone St. James is not one of my favorite authors. I have read another one of her books and love that one just as much. So definitely one of my favorite authors. The next one, I can't remember how many stars I gave this, probably 4, but this is a translated work. This is The Cat Who Saved Books by Suzuki Natsukawa. This was just nice. It was slow. It was not comforting, but kind of cozy. And the cat talks. So this follows a young man whose grandfather has just passed. He owns a bookshop, but, you know, this young man's introverted. He decides, you know, I'm gonna move, so let's sell the bookshop. So as he's preparing to sell the bookshop, he meets this talking cat who takes him on, I believe it's like 5 different journeys to save books. And as he goes on this journey, he's kind of remembering his grandfather and how much he taught him and how much he influenced his love of books. And I loved that about this. I loved that it kind of always brought it back to a love for books and a love for reading. And it was very, I don't want to say inspirational, but it was just very moving. And I loved how there were always like little nuggets of memories of the grandfather saying these things that just kind of made you think, and it made you pause. And I just loved that kind of pull of the grandfather's memory, because we don't actually see him, I don't think, except for, oh, bookmark. Yeah, no, you don't actually meet the grandfather. Apparently I read this for Becca's Book-Oplathon in September, but I do highly recommend this. I love this. I believe, like I said, I gave it 4 stars, but still, great book. The next one, so this is the last of my top 10, but this was the last one of the last books I read last year, and I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it. I read it all in one day. It's very short, so that wasn't really hard. It's like 267 pages or something, so it's not hard, but I enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to. I picked this up on a whim. So this is Poster Girl by Veronica Roth. This was my first like true foray into dystopian fantasy, like sci-fi, dystopian sci-fi. I was never one who read like The Hunger Games or Divergent or anything. So my first real step into dystopian, and I kind of loved it. So this follows the poster girl of like the delegation, and when the delegation fell, she was put into like a camp for delegation followers. And years later, she is given the chance to kind of get out of that camp by finding another missing girl. So there's kind of a mystery in this, and there's a little bit of, I don't know that I call it a romance, because they don't, I guess a little bit of a romance, or like a haters to friends type of thing. But I just found this really, really awesome. I really can't pinpoint. I liked getting a look into Sonia's head, who is the main character, and it was just very interesting. I really enjoyed this. I didn't think I was gonna enjoy it like I did, but It was really good. I do believe I gave this like a 4.75 or something. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But very good. So I have like 6 more honorable mentions. These didn't quite make my top 10, but I still love them nonetheless. The first one is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I finally read this last year and I loved it. I have since bought all of it. Fairy Loot editions and Barnes & Noble editions. But this follows twin sisters Emilia and Vittoria, and when Emilia discovers her sister Vittoria has been murdered, she sets out to find who did it. And in doing this, she summons a prince from hell. And this kind of follows them as they try to discover who killed her sister. And while she thinks a prince from hell did it, maybe that's not the truth. But she's struggling with what she's always been taught, which is not to trust the princes from hell because they're princes from hell, but also to like protect the rest of her family and protect herself and protect other witches that are also being hunted down and killed. So there's a lot of action in this and some mystery and some romance, and it's just very fun. So I do recommend this. And I like Carrie Maniscalco's writing. I've also read her the first book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and I really enjoyed that, so I do recommend that. Then I picked up a manga series, and I've been obsessed. This is just the first volume of Spy X Family. I have all 8, but I didn't want to pick them all up. So this is just the first one. This follows a spy and an assassin who get married to keep their covers, and then he also adopts a little girl who turns out is telepathic. And then they get a dog who can tell the future. So very fun, very action-packed. I love the art style in this, and it's just so much fun. I love it. And there's also an anime for this. So, and then we have some poetry. This is Flower Crowns and Fearsome Things by Amanda Lovelace. I love this. This was kind of like inspired by Persephone. So it says, "Who said you can't wear a flower crown and still remain a fearsome thing? Make Persephone proud." And it has these gorgeous art on the opposite side of the pages, and it was great. I had a lot of poems that I highlighted. Okay, so there's this one. "To everyone who has had a bad day and tries to take it out on me, I send you love and light. I pray your bitterness is replaced with sweetness. I pray that your next day is a much kinder one. I pray you go easier on yourself and those around you, because that's what everyone deserves. She has always sparked more fear than lust in the hearts of men. She doesn't need their chocolate, she doesn't need their diamonds, she doesn't need their money. All of those things she can give to herself. When he sent her roses, she burned them all and then planted her own, and they were all the more lovely for it. Queen of the underworld." So I love this. It was just good poetry. The next one is, again, I stand in for an entire series. This is the Bridgerton. This is the first book, The Duke and I, by Julia Quinn. I was so set on not picking up Bridgerton because it was so hyped, and it was rightly hyped. It deserved to be hyped. I had refused to watch the show. I refused to read the books. And then I was gifted this copy of The Duke and I. And I read it. I was like, why not? I already have it. And then I went out and I bought the next 7, and I also bought the prequel, the 4 prequel books, and the one that has the mother's story in it, and also a book of quotes from Julia Quinn, who picked them from the Bridgerton series. And it's just, I got a little obsessed for a moment. But it's just a cute romance. These are all connected, not, what do you call it? They all follow a different Bridgerton sibling. So this first one follows Daphne Bridgerton and her romance with Simon. And then there is, okay, so it's Daphne, then Anthony, then Benedict, then Colin, then Eloise, then Francesca, then Gregory, and then Hyacinth, then Gregory. I have not read Gregory's because I spoiled myself for one of the tropes in that book, and I don't like it. But I'll probably eventually forget it and pick it up anyway. So The Duke and I follows Daphne and Simon as they kind of fake date in order to get the meddling mothers off of Simon's back and to make Daphne more attractive to other guys. But, you know, how fake dating usually goes, they fall in love and all that other stuff. I loved this. There is one scene in this that I don't quite like, but no spoilers. But there is kind of a non-consent issue in this that I didn't enjoy, but I still love this series. So I do recommend the Bridgerton series. And then the next book I have is one I finally picked up. It's another one that's been all over Book Talk. Neon Gods by Katie Robert. Very smutty, very spicy. This is a modern retelling of Hades and Persephone. The second book in this, Electric Idol, is on my TBR for January this year, and I look forward to it. I enjoyed it. It took me a little while to get into it, but the modern twist makes it even more interesting, and just seeing how the gods kind of still have their kind of like original personalities but put into the modern world is very interesting. So this was very good. I don't, again, remember what I gave it, but still, very interesting. And then the final one I read on my Kindle, but I do have a physical copy. I just don't know where it is right now, and that is Never Seduces Scott by Maya Banks. This is a comfort read for me. I always love to pick this up when I'm kind of in a slump, and it just makes me fall in love with reading all over again. This follows a Highlander named Graham, who is I believe a Montgomery, and they have a rivalry with the Armstrongs. And then the king orders the Montgomerys to marry the daughter of the Armstrongs so that they stop fighting. And the daughter of the Armstrongs is, I believe her name is Eleanor, and she's like a little cupcake, and I love her. Unfortunately, years before, she got into an accident, and since then everyone has thought she's simple, but it turns out she's deaf. And she kind of brightens up when she meets Graham because his voice is so deep that she kind of hears the vibrations more, and it kind of just gives her some hope that you know, she's not going to struggle for the rest of her life. She's not going to live in silence. She can hear something. So I love that. And then they have trials, they have tribulations. You know, he doesn't really like her family, and she's brought into this new clan where nobody likes her, and they kind of treat her really badly. But it's so heartwarming because Graham takes care of her, and then she takes care of him, and I love it. So I do highly recommend that. And there's a follow-up to that I can't remember the name of, but just look up Maya Banks and Montgomery Armstrongs, and you should find the title, or I will find the cover and put it up here. But those are my top 10 books and some honorable mentions from what I read in January, and no, from what I read in 2022. So I hope you got some new book ideas that you might want to read. Let me know some of your favorites down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next video. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day or night wherever you are, and don't forget to pick up a good book. Bye.